All right, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. You thought I wasn't going to talk about this? The guy on this YouTube channel who sometimes cries about Spider-Man? No, of course I was going to talk about it. And I pretty much loved it. Big surprise. This movie seems to be like taking the world by storm. People are talking about it like it's like the second coming. I really had a good time with it. I think I like the first one better though. I know, don't freak out. I'll try and talk about why. Ultimately, I still really enjoy this movie. I recommend you see it if you haven't, especially if you love Spider-Man, all things Spider-Man, and animation, most importantly. But with that being said, I can't really talk about a lot without going into spoilers. So this is going to be a spoiler-filled video. I'm going to touch upon everything I liked, the couple of things I guess I didn't like. There's not even anything I really dislike, but either way, I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff here. So spoiler warning. You have been warned. There's always still one guy in the comments who will be like, thanks for the spoilers. Because you skipped this part. So if you didn't skip this part, thank you. Love you. Anyway, let's talk about Spider-Man. I think it was really hard to follow up the original, and I also didn't necessarily feel like the original needed a sequel. I know people were so in love with that world, they wanted more. I get why, but I was very happy with the original Spider-Verse movie just being this perfect, open and shut, incredible representation of new and old Spider-Man and just like mind-blowing animation and music, just like a pop culture moment. It was great. So I give them props right away for just being like, all right, let's do that again. And they generally really did. I mean, bigger stakes, more multiverse stuff, a new slate of characters. It all pretty much worked, and I actually like that it sets up another movie. But I guess where it suffers for me, or why I wouldn't rank it as the first movie, is that it does feel like a middle chapter. Everything in it was really good, really entertaining, really compelling, but then once it started going, it just kind of stopped. Now, that being said, I actually found it kind of refreshing to have a movie end on a cliffhanger. I feel like it's been a minute. I love a good, Empire Strikes Back moment. The bad guy kicks your ass in a fight, he cuts your hand off, then he tells you that he's your dad, and then you fall down an elevator shaft. It was I'm good for a movie that has a good, nice cliffhanger where you're looking forward to what's next. It felt refreshing, and it actually caught a lot of the people I was in the movie theater with off guard. There was a full grown-ass woman I was sitting next to in the movie theater, and when it ended, she literally went, "What the fuck? The movie just started!" I was like, dude, relax. So again, to not contradict myself, as much as I liked that it was a refreshing cliffhanger, looking forward to what's next, it itself did feel kind of like a little bit of a setup. That being said, it's not all that. There are full arcs, specifically with Gwen Stacy, with her dad, which I really enjoyed. I really loved getting a look at her whole universe and how everything was set up and how she explained it in the first movie, but now we really get to see it. And of course, the incredible art style. Once I realized that every time a shot cut to a different one, the color palette and everything behind them, the light, everything was changing, every single different scene, I was like, wow, that's crazy. And it really is. I think wow, that's crazy was what I was saying for most of the movie. Visual style also, it being tied to characters, I want to dive into the characters, but the first one is worth mentioning because of the art style. Spider-Punk, I thought was really well done. Spider-Punk, that was Dan Slott, that originally could have been a really bad idea, and it turned out to be awesome. And then him being in this movie could have been a bad idea, and it turned out to be awesome. From the incredible kind of old style, Sex Pistols imagery poster type thing, to the voice actor. As soon as I heard his voice, I knew who he was. I was like, oh, awesome, this is cool. All the lines, all the little digs and capitalism and funny shit he had, just good, real punk atmosphere, but also to the point where he's on the good guy's side, but he's encouraging Miles to kind of, buck the trend a little bit. He felt naturally disruptive and interesting to the story, and that's what he should be. And I thought that was just really well thought out and really well done. The other characters, I think part of the reason why I like the first one is that I like the crew of the first one a little more. I thought they were a little more interesting. Not that these are bad necessarily. They kind of made a newish interpretation of Jess Drew that's what they call her, Jess Drew, not Jessica Drew. And I thought that was pretty cool. But there wasn't really a lot of her. And the Spider-Man from India, who I didn't really have a lot of experience with, I thought visually was absolutely incredible. The way he fought, the way he spun around in the air, and also as an example to Miles, how it's kind of like the Spider-Man who got his shit together and can handle things and has a schedule and takes care of himself and takes care of his family. It was cool. But I think where this movie really excelled was the villain stuff. The Spot easy for me because I always thought the Spot was cool, or Spot. I loved seeing him here. The Spot was voiced by Jason Schwartzman, kind of felt like a safe pick, but like he still did really good. And the way he was set up and his origin was very good, pretty comic accurate, but also the fact that like it tied into the previous movie. Really like that. But what always worked for me about the Spot and how it really worked here with how they animated it is that it plays into the combat of Spider-Man, how Spider-Man fights and flinging and web whipping and jumping and bendy and acrobatics with somebody that has like endless bottomless pits in them. It's just brilliant. And I think the movie really capitalized on that, with that specific like early fight. I was in like Spider-Man heaven with that shit. But what I really liked about him is that they've played on and this has been done before, but I like this here, where a Spider-Man insult, a Spider-Man quip can actually backfire and motivate an enemy. I really like that the Spot's quest to kind of meddle and ultimately get a lot more power was because specifically Miles referred to him as the villain of the week, and he wanted to prove that he's not just some villain of the week. He can have an actual lasting impact on Spider-Man's life and truly mess some stuff up. And I just thought that was good. Really well thought out. So you have him as a villain, but then you also have not as like a villain, but as a point of tension, the pushback point. Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara. I like this. I thought this was a really good idea to use him as this. It was good for it to be kind of like the core problem of this movie, just kind of Spider-Man lore and Spider-Man destiny, and one character kind of being on one side of that interpretation of Spider-Man lore, if that makes sense. Like, you can argue that there's some plot holes and like how things make sense with like the canon events or whatever. I don't care. It's like a time travel, time machine movie. I'm just here for the ride. I'm not here to do the math. But I just like Oscar Isaac's fanboy. Like, I like him a lot. He's the only celebrity I saw in real life and actually got nervous. Our Solid Snake, maybe, apparently, allegedly. He did a really good job, but also just like this Miguel O'Hara and like showing off a lot of his powers, not all of it, but I also really like that they kind of showed that he does have like the poisonous spider venom bite. I was like, yeah! But he was cool. The vibe was very cool. Like the tone and atmosphere anytime he was on screen, I just really liked it. And the movie, of course, is like filled with references and Spider-Man stuff. Obviously, like here, it serves the story. Like it makes sense why all this shows up. Obviously, we see Tobey Maguire. We see Better. We see that. We see Amazing Spider-Man. We see Andrew Garfield. We see all that. Like, of course. But it was all those little cameos that they throw around in the room in Nueva York that really worked for me. I didn't need all that. Like, it kind of started to feel like when you watch that new Space Jam movie and that last scene where there's like a shit ton of every single Warner Brothers character ever made. It's just like, it just kind of like melts your brain. That's how I was after a point, but I like seeing certain things. I like seeing Spider-Man PS4 there. Obviously, that was really cool. I really wish they gave Yuri Lowenthal a line, because they gave Spectacular Spider-Man a line. The fact that he walked up and said something to Miles, I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. So, also, weird little things like Spinneret. You can see Spinneret from Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. That was kind of cool. There's so many other bizarre, weird ones and weird references that I can sit here and point out, but I'm not like one of those types of channels. Those are the ones that caught my, like, because it was a lot at once. It's definitely like encourages repeat viewing, but those are some cool ones. Not gonna do like a play-by-play of every character cameo or like the Venom thing, because I don't really like the Venom movies, but yeah, those are the ones I liked. Also, I just want to give it a shout out because I think it was like underrated in the first movie, but I liked seeing it here more as well, is Miles's parents and how they're dealing with things and how they're figuring things out. I find it genuinely interesting. Like, I don't know if it's the voice actors or the right, like I care just as much about what they're going through and what they're feeling and what they're figuring out. It's compelling, and I like that they've kind of had an arc, you know? And it's not something that like I'd find myself like fast forwarding through, like, oh, boring scene. Like, it's good. That's where there can be some Miles Morales appeal, in my opinion, is that like you don't always get Aunt May's side of the story. I mean, in certain instances you do, but not necessarily like this. It's like it's kind of set up for it here with the two-parent dynamic, you know? As much as I could tell that the movie was wrapping up and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, like just when things started to get exciting, like we're gonna cut this off and make it one more movie. Okay. But the ending surprise worked well enough that I was like, hell yeah. Prowler, Miles. They basically did the Back to the Future 2 thing, right? Where Marty goes home, but then it's not his home. It's a totally different town, and he's not living there. Like, it kind of felt like that. But the reveal of like bad guy Prowler Miles Morales was so cool. I think Shameik Moore is just really good. I think he has done an incredible job as Miles Morales, and for him to turn around and kind of use his big boy voice a little bit with this bad Miles, and just the way he says Miles Morales, like he says it with such like, ooh, like he says it like a man. You're like, oh shit, that was such a good moment. That was like, and I really am excited to see where that goes. I think that these Spider-Verse movies, like the comics, like I was there when he was first introduced, and then of course there's the Spider-Man PS4 Miles Morales game. I think these movies are like the greatest thing for the Miles Morales Spider-Man. It shows him in the best light, the coolest, most interesting light. It does really cool things with his character, and it seems to have really taken off. Like, I see little kids love and embrace Spider-Man and Miles Spidey, specifically because of these movies, and that's nice to see. Where is it gonna go? I don't know, but I like that they teased the OG crew coming back, like Spider-Ham and Spider-Man Noir and stuff like that. I'm really hoping that they get all the voice actors back, because that's the main gist of it. But that's where I'm at, essentially, where like if the second and third movie, like if they nail it, then it'll all equally just be a really fantastic trilogy. Again, like I'm saying, I like the first one more than this one, but if 2 and 3 together, like if you sandwich 2 and 3 together, if they're both great, and then one, I don't know, this might be kick-ass, but I don't really care about ranking them. I am just happy that this is a thing, and it's also now kind of like an ongoing thing, especially as someone who was like, I'm happy with one, just do one and done. Like, this could be an incredible trilogy. There's a lot of times in my life, though, I've been at the second movie and I've said, this can be an incredible trilogy. And then it isn't. But we'll see. Spider-Man, Spider-Mans, Spider-Womans, all of them are cool. So yeah, I'm just here for the ride, and I'm really looking forward to that next one. I'm curious to see if they can find a reason to bring back Chris Pine Spider-Man, because I thought that was weird and cool. But anyway, let me know what you think about Across the Spider-Verse and Ben Reilly. How cool is Ben Reilly? I'm sorry. Like, I like Ben Reilly. I know he's corny, and the movie kind of made him a bit, but I kind of like the way they did it. At least, like, the bit made sense. Anyway, going off on a tangent. Yeah, the fact that I brought up Ben Reilly, let me know who your favorite surprise character showing up was. There's so much to talk about with this movie, from the different art styles to the different worlds they're transported in. There was so much I couldn't cover. So let me know some of your favorite stuff in the comments. I want to hear from you, because there's a lot to talk about with this one. If you get what I'm trying to do here, I just talk about stuff I love. So thank you for being here. The videos I do on movies usually get less views because I'm more of the gamer guy, but thanks for sticking around. I appreciate it. Thank you to you, YouTube membership, Patreon people, all of you. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games, pizza's on me.